there is no magic wand. The festival you mentioned your first time attending was 2019, and that was kind of pre-Randy, pre-changeover of the board and the team we have. We went from 11 distilleries, and they're actually all here listed on this barrelhead. That was 2019 distilleries, to where we went into 34 of them in 2021, 48 last year, and we're at 55 now. So I mean, the growth has been tremendous, and of course the laws are favorable that allow us to do what we're doing. But it's a handful for sure.
This is Alan Bishop, head alchemist at Spirits of French Lick. Be on the lookout for a brand new bottled and bond Solomon Scott rye whiskey, made from a mash composed of 65% rye, 35% corn, and 5% victory malt. This 5-year-old 100 proof rye whiskey is a throwback to early 1800s style rye whiskeys of the Ohio Valley. Named after the legendary Daisy Spring Mill distillery owner turned moonshiner Solomon Scott of Paoli, Indiana. Remember, drink responsibly and never drink and drive.
There we go. Let's get this out. All right. Everybody's working. All right, here we go. Starting the countdown right now.
Drinking bourbon, sipping on some scotch. We get a little wild, but it's sure fun to watch. We love what we do, we're drinking every brew. Man, we talk some shit, but we're telling the truth. Yeah, we're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys, raising some hell and making some noise. Yeah, we're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. We're here to have fun and we hope you enjoy. We're here to have fun.
All right, welcome to another podcast of the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. Tonight we have a very special guest with us joining. He's been joining us for some time now. I think this is going into our what is it, our third? No, we did the virtual, then 21, 22, this fourth, right? If you count the virtual. But Randy Prasse is here, president of Kentucky Bourbon Festival. Hey, how's it going?
It is going really well, thank you. And yeah, 4 years. I mean, that's I forgot about the virtual year, the pandemic year that we always try to forget. But yeah,
feels like we haven't seen you since Sunday.
And then we also have CT joining us tonight. CT,
hey everybody.
He's getting his legs under him, and it's being very consistent on the podcast, and I appreciate that, CT. And we just finished up a weekend, and what he was talking about, we got to see you for brunch on Sunday. That was wonderful family time, there with your family, and we really appreciated that time. That I enjoyed it. Plus, you took us to a place that had such fantastic food.
It was really, it was kind of a Stacy actually from our team turned me on to that place. Our very first brunch was at Goose Creek, and it was just a cool place that stuck, and we go there now about once a month. So, and of course I bought you guys breakfast in Little Lena, Illinois, when you're coming off your Galena whiskey festival. That was kind of fun. I run into you guys. I'm 5 minutes from my home farm, and here you guys are. So
it's funny, we were sitting in Friday night at the place there downtown Louisville, and the guy next to me was from around that same area.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, he starts showing he didn't get to go this year, but his friend did, and he starts showing CT his friend's pictures, and he's like, you're in those. You're in my pictures. So that was kind of cool. We're just sitting at the bar. Anyways, so, Kentucky Bourbon Festival, like we always, we're here again at this time of the year. And like you said, 4 years, the time passes, and you think, September 14th through 17th, Bourbon on the Air is the 14th, Thursday night, right? That really kicks it off this year.
Correct.
And tickets are going to go on sale, but you think it's a far away, but it's really the way things have been going. You got to feel sometimes that it just comes up so fast on you because there's so much to do to run the festival.
Well, and in reality, on the calendar, we're 4 months away. But people ask me, well, what do you do the rest of the year? And this is what we do all year round. I mean, there is no.
Yeah, and so evolving that, and once again, that's one thing that you've always said. You, as the current president, you have some advantages over past presidents because of the fact that there's a lot of stuff you can do now that you couldn't. Now, in 2019, when I first was there, they finally let you be able to take a drink and walk around the grounds. I mean, you couldn't even do that, in 2000 before that. So, those are wonderful laws, but also the change of this festival. There's a lot of things that the one main thing you've kept that's such a cool event is talk about the barrel races, the bourbon barrel racing. I mean, and you keep evolving that, and what you have plans for that in your head. So, what's it going to be like this year?
It is absolutely the one component of the older version of the festival, the previous, iteration. And it really showcases the distillery workers and the camaraderie, the people that come out. I mean, Bourbon Festival attendees from out of state, out of town will come and watch it. But for the most part, it's like the fan club of the friends and family of the people that are competing in the barrel relay. And there's nothing else like it. It's unique, rolling 503-pound barrels through a course and then, clocking them in the rick, and the coaching. And I mean, if Heaven Hill takes it very seriously. They've built a replica of our track at the distillery. They've got tryouts. They've got coaches that are there, and the only way you can get a spot on one of these teams is if somebody retires from it, for whatever reason, age, or they, can no longer do it. But there's a real human interest story behind what you see one Saturday a year at the Bourbon Festival. So it's very cool. And Independent Stave has been our sponsor partner on this thing forever. And they actually coordinate, they designed the track. Music Construction came in and helped us build the track. Steve Nally from Bardstown Bourbon Company, now master distiller, is the MC and kind of educates people as to what they're seeing and how they're clocking barrels and everything. And so, I mean, it continues to evolve, but it's very important component because of its uniqueness. So, I mean, that's something I see always being aligned with the Bourbon Festival weekend.
For sure. I mean, if you've never seen it, the timing of the barrel roll, that it has to go down, it's got to turn a corner. Then when it gets in, then it turns a corner into the rick. But the part of the skill is that when it rolls in there and hits that barrel, that the bunghole is upright, and they've got that down. It's and how they go about doing it, and there's just no way that happens by accident, and they just all take it so serious, and it is a really cool thing to see because there is some talent, like you said.
Well, a skill, certainly. And there's the team competition, which is where it all started, but there's the individual men's and individual women's now. And there's every bit as much competitive spirit in those individual classes as there are on the full team, the team competition. But a couple of years ago, Heaven Hill, they weren't able to participate. And so Bardstown Bourbon Company, I think, won. And Heaven Hill was very serious about, competing last year to try, get the title back. So
right. Yeah.
It's fun to watch, though, for sure.
Well, also what's fun about it is usually the master distillers, come out to watch their teams, and the owners come out and watch their teams. So you've got like all of Kentucky's main people that are running the distilleries, they're all there. How many teams are competing this year? Do you know?
Oh, there's over a dozen, I think, this year. And, it kind of went away during the pandemic, and a lot of the warehouse workers were called away into doing double duty, or just the total hours that they're having to work because of, other staff shortages. It kind of took a hit on, on the barrel relay, but it's back now. And the thing about everything that we do at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, including when the barrel relay happens, Max, with Heaven Hill, this is his front yard. I mean, he may pay attention to what a festival or an event that Heaven Hill is working on somewhere else in the country, but this is, he drives by this. This is hometown, right across the street, from the distillery. So there's always a little extra pressure because the executives, as you said, from all these distilleries are engaged, and there's a lot of pride. The jacket that the winning team gets to wear, it's not unlike this jacket, the derby jacket with everything. So it's a pride thing.
Yeah. So now talk about your background a little. We've not really gone into what led you to this point, and then so people understand exactly, where you're coming from and the skill that you've developed to. The one thing that I know about this festival is I've been going to a lot of other whiskey festivals, and this festival is unique in the fact of the distilleries that are there. They are being represented by the people who make the bourbon. The people, you have almost every single distillery brings the master distiller or the owner, and they're basically signing bottles and talking about their product to you. Whereas a lot of other whiskey festivals you go to, unlike any they basically have reps and people who are knowledgeable. You might get a distillery with somewhat, smaller distillery where the ownership's there, in whatever. But for overall, most of the people that are talking about it, they're knowledgeable of it, but they're usually the sales people or the representatives.
Right. Well, and that really truly is our franchise. It's what differentiates us from every other whiskey event for sure in the world, and in a lot of ways, any other spirits event. And, I used to run craft beer festivals. And that's the same thing. If you get the brewery, more times than not, they might be wearing the logo of the brewery that they're standing behind in the tent pouring, but they're hired guns. They're not the people that are in the brewery making the beer. They probably work for the distributor. Here, you wear this shirt today and you're pouring X. And that's something we work really hard to not be. There's a brew fest here in Louisville that Kate and I have gone to, and it's an $80 single day ticket for a 4-hour brew fest, and it's a fine event. But I asked about this one IPA, what is this? Tell me about this. And the lady was like, I don't know, I'm just standing here pouring. And that's the response I never want to have come out of the mouths of somebody that's at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, because it is about the whiskey and it's about the people who make it. So, the old festival, anybody who's listening, if they went to the old festival, and again, to live on for 29 years is a huge testament to the volunteers and the community leaders and the people that kept that event going. And I say over and over, most festivals fail after about year 4. So the fact that they made it that long at an event where you really couldn't even go and drink bourbon at, but that was something there was a car show, there was a hot air balloon blow, there was a golf tournament, there was this, there was that, bouncy houses and the beer garden, and all of those things were fine, and that's what a lot of people wanted out of their community festival. But the thing that really drove the changes wasn't that I came in and made all these changes. I was brought in to make the changes, and that the distilleries were starting to have second thoughts about, we can't keep underwriting the cost of this community festival. We need something more serious. And obviously, as bourbon has gotten a lot more popular, I always say that, the distilleries have gotten sophisticated, and the consumers, the enthusiasts, have gotten more sophisticated, and the festival was just lagging behind, and it was no longer checking the boxes that the distilleries needed. So I was brought in as the why the festival had to change, and then I was the how. This is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to make the distilleries happy with us. And I always say this very carefully because there's the customer is always right, but in this case, as important as the customers really are, and they are, the focus has got to be on the distilleries. Because if we don't take care of the distilleries and the distilleries go and find the shiny new thing that gets their attention, ultimately our customers will suffer from not having that variety of the best distilleries in the world, quite frankly, here at their fingertips. So we take that very seriously, and I was just talking to Stacy today. We had one of our distilleries who wasn't necessarily the easiest individual to kind of win over on the new vision and the new direction of the festival. But last year, totally unsolicited, I received an email that said, you guys absolutely put the exact bourbon consumer that we need in front of our tent during the festival. And, and they all feel that way, I believe. I don't know that anybody feels that we're not delivering the kind of consumer that they really want to have that engagement with. So, but it wasn't something that just came to me overnight. I mean, I think my first festival that I was working on was in 1987. And, over the years, I went from a volunteer to, being fortunate enough to where I can make my career out of doing what I really do love doing, which is, festivals and seeing the faces of people. So over the years, I think I've probably done everything from, a little street festival, art craft festival kind of thing to, running one of the top state fairs in the country. And then obviously this week it's a little more relevant with Kentucky Derby and Churchill Downs and here. And my bourbon collection started with the annual Kentucky Derby bottle from Woodford Reserve, and that was all we owned. And, I have the job now and I've got 120 some bottles, which is a very modest little collection, but the best I could do over the last 3 years. And, I've really found a new appreciation for the liquid and I've really learned a lot and I've enjoyed every moment of it.
Well, one of your strong points is how I'm trying to use a word and it's not coming to me, but you basically are, you're not, it's not about you ever. And it's like you always are looking. And when I talk to you sometimes about whiskey, you're kind of like, sometimes you're like, well, I haven't done this or I haven't done that or whatever. And you've developed your palate, you've developed your collection similar to how all of us do it. And, it's funny when it gets over 100, if you've noticed, it starts to steamroll. It's like a ball. You with a tennis ball and you throw it down the mountain and all of a sudden it just starts picking up steam. So when you were getting 3 or 4, a month or whatever, and then whatever, and all of a sudden now it's 3 or 4 a week because people, you have a nice position. There's no doubt about it to be able to get some really good bourbon, but you're very respectful of that position. It's not like you're trying to take away from other people. And
no, and look, it's this industry and the people that are really knowledgeable, really enthusiastic. I'm never going to fool anyone with knowledge that I don't have. So I'm always very open. I admit that I don't know what I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. I ask questions, and more times than not, I'm the student that's learning and picking up things. And Steve Coombs. I mean, Steve and I have talked. Stacy and I have talked. I mean, Stacy's introduced me to a number of distilleries and people that I would never have known had it not been for that. So I openly admit that. I mean, I'm very humble when it comes to what I know and don't know and what I want to learn. And it's I immerse myself. No matter what I do, I immerse myself in it. And this is a fun industry to immerse yourself in, no doubt. But no, I mean, but I've shared this story before. And again, with it being Derby week, it's very relevant. But we were sitting in a big boardroom and, the vice president of sales and marketing was there and the vice president of ticket sales was there and the sponsorship folks. And everybody is talking about how successful of a year they were having and how great and almost being, kind of bragging about how important they were to the overall Kentucky Derby. And, it came up and say, okay, well, the horsemen that are in the backside, in the barns, are, they bring the horses in, and they're the ones that train these horses, and they're the ones that their horses, 20 of them, get selected to be put in that starting gate on Saturday. And without those 20 horses, you don't have the Kentucky Derby. And in our case, our horses are those distilleries. So all of the things that we talk about, they're all great. They're all important, and they're all impressive. But if you don't have the 20 distillery, the horses in the starting gate, you don't have the Derby. And without the distilleries, we don't have the Kentucky Bourbon Festival.
This is true. Now, go ahead, CT.
No, as the, last year for me was the first year of going to the festival. And I can say from an appreciation of like just the setup of it that I really didn't know what to expect. I saw some pictures online. Jeff had told me plenty, but I didn't expect the caliber of what it was that these distilleries put the amount of effort in that they do. I mean, whether it was Jim Beam that literally set up a tent that looked like a house with, they had things inside of it. They had chairs and seats and couches. And, there was places like Lucky 7 that had taken and put a red carpet up with the stanchions and made it look like you were going to a movie, that they even had popcorn being popped, So there was so much of that I think made it way more than just going to a generic festival with fold out tables with, hey, here's what we have. If you want to try it. That spoke a lot of it.
Thank you for saying that. For years, the festival was a series of the pop-up tents, the $100 pop-up tents you can get from Sam's Club or whatever. And, and some of the distilleries would put up like their buildings, right? The little sheds and stuff. And they're really cool. But kind of the new focus, and that's a little bit where I steal from, my Churchill Downs, is, the tents. Everybody starts with a uniform look. To a newcomer like you walking in, you've got this beautiful park-like setting, hopefully blue skies, but you've got a 200-year-old building as your backdrop. You've got all these mature trees and the brick sidewalks and the lamps, and it really feels like an afternoon in the park. So we really wanted to have that kind of visual impact, that this event was different than the earlier versions of this festival. And one of the distilleries today just brought up, they like the fact that there's a level playing field, that just because you happen to be a huge distillery that has a lot of money, you don't necessarily go in and make the little guys that don't have that kind of money to invest look bad. So everybody kind of has their space and can compete and get the attention of the consumer, just like the big guys can. And I really hadn't heard it that way before. So that was kind of a nice thing, just picked up this afternoon in one of our meetings with the distillery.
I think that anybody that comes that, because of course, from being from Ohio, a lot of people up here probably don't go down. But if they go down, I think that they are going to just be shocked at what that, even if it's for one day, but if you have the chance to go for all 3 days, the amount of things you're going to see and do, it's the Super Bowl of bourbon. I mean, it's literally.
Can I tell you a little bit of trivia?
Yeah.
75%. No, this is good stuff. And it plays off of what CT just said. 75% of the people that attended last year's festival were from outside of Kentucky. The number one state for actual ticket purchases was still Kentucky, but Ohio was number 2. Number 2. Number 3 was Indiana. Number 4 was Tennessee. 5, Illinois. Florida, South Carolina, Texas, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. And we actually had all 50 states. We had a couple from Alaska. We had a couple from Hawaii. We had a group from Japan, a couple from the UK. So there is an international, Canadian contingency that's going to keep growing. But
Australia.
Australia, New Zealand. We had a South African group that came in as part of a Department of Ag project, but they came, the Department of Ag and the Department of Tourism had these international visitors in Kentucky, and they made sure they came to the Bourbon Festival. I had dinner with one of the groups on, I think it was Friday night. But so, and that'll only continue to grow, and it's not to diminish the important role of the people that live in Kentucky, because they're still the number one state is Kentucky. And but the fact that we're building this where there's an international appeal will only kind of tee up future plans as we kind of hopefully start to talk and discover some things that we can roll out that will be equally exciting. But we have to have the festival in Kentucky. This is year 3 of the new vision, and years 1 and 2 we got a lot of grace from our attendees and a lot of grace from our distilleries. Like, they knew this was a monumental change, a paramount shift to everything. But this is the 3rd year of this new version, and we have to have it buttoned up. So CT, what you experienced last year as a first time attendee, we always raise the bar a little bit, and we're cleaning things up, tightening things up to give that experience. So I'll be interested to see what you think when you come this year. And we can talk about some of the changes that we're doing this year that are going to make that obvious, like, wow.
So you mentioned something that might lead into that is food. You said something about you've got an addition this year that's going to be stepping the food game up quite a bit.
Great segue there. Thank you. Well, and the food is something that's important for everybody. The pandemic year, coming off of that, we had some food trucks that had signed up, but they couldn't get to the festival. 2 of them, their working staff actually got tested positive for COVID the week of the festival, so they couldn't be there. One of them had a transmission, breakdown. So, we've got 5, 6, 7,000 people coming in. You got to feed them. And our number one initiative coming off of the year end with the board, kind of a year in review, this is what we felt we did really well. These are the areas we need to improve on. Number one initiative was upping our food game. So I kind of made that, Stacy came on board in January, so she's the lead with the distilleries. Yes, thank you, standing ovation. But it freed me up to really put all my focus on that food. So now we have at least 12 of the area's top food truck operators. The Louisville Food Truck Association, there's 50 or 60 food trucks, and we're hand picking the 12 or 14 that we want there. And if you've been to the festival, there's a big church parking lot right next door to the festival grounds. It was right near where you guys were last year for the media area. That whole parking lot now is going to be food trucks and a big central dining area, so people can, in a tent and tables and chairs, they can actually go and sit and enjoy their meals and get a little break from the heat or the rain or whatever happens to be going on that weekend. But that, I believe, is going to be the single biggest obvious improvement to the overall experience for the consumer. But that said, we added a few more distilleries. I think last year we had 47 or 48 that were confirmed, and now we're at 55. Over half of those are the craft distilleries. So people come to this festival, they want to know that their favorites there, the big brands are there, but they also want to go and try to explore and discover some brands that they hadn't heard of yet and try their products and hopefully convert them to customers. But 2 years ago, we started doing the sampling. So Jeffrey, you mentioned 2019. It took us that long to where we could actually get a cocktail. You still couldn't do neat pours on the lawn at the festival. You had the beer garden and you could do some cocktails. So it was a move. But then fast forward now, so 2021, all the distilleries were doing direct sampling, direct to you. You could walk up with your Glencairn glass and tell them what you wanted, and they'd pour it and you could walk away and enjoy it. Last year, again, the laws changed so people can buy directly from the DSP distilleries. You have to be a DSP. So there's some of the smaller guys out there that are NDP, non-distilling producers, but the DSPs are now able to sell. And this year we're really, really focusing on that. Last year it was like, you can sell bottles. This year it's like, we really need you to get in the game and sell bottles. Next year it's going to be, that's part of the program. If you're going to be at the Bourbon Festival, you got to sell, because that's what our ticketed customers are looking for. When they walk in the gate, they want to know what they're going to have access to when they buy their festival ticket. And it's not just the sampling and expanded food trucks. They want to come in and buy bottles that they maybe can't get outside of the festival. So that's really the focus for this year, being year 2, and next year is going to even be a stronger effort to make sure these distilleries who can legally sell are doing that.
And I think the cool part about it, as far as the collectors, what happened a little bit last year was some of the distilleries were like, I thought Heaven Hill really had the game going because they had that private select. That's the only place you could get it. It wasn't there
Attaboy.
again. It's right there. You were able to pick it up at the festival, and that
Yeah.
added into something. But I think this year, even though you might not, you want to be able to buy what they're selling, maybe their base product, but you also want to buy something special. And when it comes to us, the people that attend, most of them are collectors. John and Cherry, Spicer, they're looking, and those collectors who you're talking about, not just the regular collectors, the everyday guys, but you're talking about some of the top collectors of bourbon in the country come to the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. And they did it because they wanted to taste good stuff and celebrate and see all the different distilleries. But now you've added in, and the distilleries have added in, this ability to get a bottle that you might not be able to get anywhere but the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. And last year with the single barrel program, how it was set up, and it's different this year, so you could go into that. But that also was for collectors too. You just had so many of those collectors getting those bottles. And now this year it's a little bit different, but I think in the end it's going to be better.
Well, and I believe that, and thank you. And that's another good segue into the discussion about single barrels. So believe it or not, 2020, the Kentucky Bourbon Festival had never done a single barrel selection with any distillery. So fast forward into the virtual year, we did one of the segments, and it's still on our YouTube channel, but it was about growing up in a whiskey family. We had Bill and Rob Samuels, and we had Kyle and Wes Henderson from Angel's Envy, and so they were talking. And afterwards, I walked Bill out to his car, and he was really adamant that Bardstown can call itself the bourbon capital of the world, but it really, by golly, needs to start acting like it and looking like it and thinking like it, and walk and talk. So on the way out, we told him at that time what the vision of this festival was, and we hadn't done it yet. And so the next day I get a call from Thomas Bolton, who's their brand ambassador at the time. Now he's like the Eastern US regional director, but he says, man, I don't know what you told the old man, but he is all wound up now about this new bourbon festival. And so he donated a barrel of Maker's Mark for us to bottle and sell as a fundraiser. And that was our entry into the single barrel program. And I said, well, if it's that easy to get one, why not ask Jim Beam? And sure enough, we got a Knob Creek. I'll ask Heaven Hill. We got an Elijah Craig, and it just on and on. We had a Blanton's, we had a Buffalo Trace, we had a 1792, and the list just kept going. I think we had 11 Four Roses, that first year. And then the second year, last year, we asked 20 distilleries, and we had 20 single barrels. But here's what's different. So the single barrel is a hot item. Everyone knows it. If you buy them, or if you are fortunate enough to actually be on a barrel pick, and you guys have done a lot more than I have on these barrel picks, but you know how special the whole experience is, and the outcome is something truly unique. And if there's 150 bottles that come out of a barrel, it's 150. That's the only ones known to exist that are going to be that flavor profile. Exactly. But now at the festival, you'd come in and you'd beeline to our bottle shop, and that's where you had to buy all of our single barrels. The objective all along has been trying to maximize that engagement between the bourbon enthusiast and the distillery. So sampling, bottle sales, which was their own bottles. This year, our distillery partners are going to be selling our own single barrels. So we're doing a Four Roses. You'll be able to go and buy whatever Four Roses is offering, plus the Kentucky Bourbon Festival single barrel. Same with Heaven Hill and the Elijah Craig. Same with Jim Beam and the Knob Creek. Barrel Craft Spirits is doing something with us. Kentucky Peerless is doing something with us. So we've kind of obsoleted the single bottle shop model. And once again, we're doing things that are going to spread the people out like a little scavenger hunt. I'm going to go to this distillery, you go to that distillery. But I think that's going to be the way of the future. And I'm really excited about that.
I like that.
I love
now,
that.
my only concern is that have the distilleries divided up by 3 so that every day there's bottles to get every day, like there was last year with the bottle shop, because the bottle
Yeah.
shop having bottles every day really made it, what would you say? It allowed you as a individual to be able to get the whiskey, opposed to that first day, everybody buying everything up, and it just almost all, half the stuff almost sells out, and all people are doing is waiting in line all day long. Whereas if you have it
Well,
divided, it really
yeah,
kind of worked last year.
and we talked about that. I mean, the trick was, well, 2 years ago, the first year we actually had tickets to get into the event, because before that it was just a free event. You just walk up, but you had no bourbon. Well, the 2 years ago when we did this, we had our bottle shop was open on Friday and open on Saturday, but not Sunday. So we took half of our allotment and sold it on Friday. And when that was sold out for the Friday, that was it. The Saturday got the other half, and that's what you're alluding to. But there were single day tickets, so you had to buy a Friday or a Saturday or a Sunday ticket. So we were really cognizant of that to make sure a Saturday only ticket holder got a chance to buy something on Saturday when they got there, and not. So last year was the first year we went weekend, all 3 days, one ticket, and we still kind of played around with how we were going to manage the inventory in the bottle shop. But the problem was we ended up on Sunday, and there was a number of the brands that didn't get sold completely out. Not many, but there were a few. So then you've got that added burden of, what do we do with the bottles now? Or do they go back into the retail system? So it's a delicate balance that now in year 2 of doing this, year 3 of actually doing the single barrels, we're trying to figure that timing and that balance and kind of get a cadence for when people are buying. So we're a 3-day ticket event with a Sunday sampler. So if you want to come just one day, Sunday is a 4-hour day, but I'm not sure how that's going to work with the distilleries. I mean, if you really are that big of an enthusiast that want to be guaranteed that you're going to have access to some of these single barrels, to me, that those are going to be the 3-day ticket holders that are coming in on Friday and Saturday, and Sunday is just, it is kind of what it is. So we'll see.
Yeah,
You could tell that last year, the people that were there Friday lining up, Saturday morning lining up, because where you're talking about the food trucks being, that's where the line wrapped all the way through that parking lot last year for people waiting to get in. But most of those people were waiting to get in to get that bottle shop bottle and then go on. So,
and I hope they were buying. I don't want to get off into the secondary market and all of that discussion, but that is what it is. But I'm hoping that people that are coming to the festival are wanting to buy that bottle, that single barrel from the distillery to go home and enjoy it. So, but you never know. I mean, I can't control that. If you want to buy a ticket to come into the Bourbon Festival, to come in and buy something to flip and do what you do, maybe that's okay. I don't know. But
but by spreading it out, you basically gave everybody a shot. And so if all the distilleries are selling individually, just think, this is just a thought. I'm not saying it has to whatever, but you can't, you know what I mean? You're going to pick what you want first. There's, let's just say there's 20 distilleries. You got to go to 20 different booths. And if you couldn't, you got to pick the ones you like more, and the lines are going to be longer in other booth, whatever, where they're selling it. So if you have it throughout each day, you can pick one day, you go to these 4 that you want, and the next day you go to those 4 and you get the 8 that you want, opposed to all of a sudden it's all sold out and you didn't get half the bottles you wanted. That's all.
I hear you. And what we used to do at one of the craft beer festival I ran in Gettysburg, we had timed releases planned throughout the day. So at the time we had an app, so people had downloaded the app, would get the notification that 3:00 XYZ brewery was going to, reveal its peanut butter porter that was coming out for the fall. So everybody'd go over there and stand in line with their sample glasses and get a sample of that. And then, at 3:30, you had to go to this brewery. And to your point, it kind of split up the day. I don't know if we're at that yet this year. I mean, I hate to say it, but some of it is going to be, let's see how it goes. Because it's not going to just be our single barrels. It's the distillery selling the bottles that they choose to bring out too. So
it's going to be nuts. People are going to be running around everywhere.
Stacy's here. That's Stacy's world.
Yeah, you got her way more involved this year than you do last year.
So you're saying
Well,
I need to bring a little kid wagon this year? Like
Yeah.
one of those red wagons? Because I feel like I need to pull one of those around. Are those allowed?
No. But we have lockers. We have lockers for you. You can lock up your stash as you buy them. So you don't have to carry them all around all day. You can lock them up and take them home with you at night.
That's a great
But
idea.
no, I mean but what we're talking about, just listen to what we just talked about for the last 10 minutes. That was unheard of in 2020 and earlier. So we've now transitioned to a serious world-class bourbon experience. And we're the only ones in the country, probably the world, where you can come in and sample and buy directly from the distillery. I mean, that is it's amazing.
And then,
to see
okay,
what
so the segue is now you've got a barrel pick that you do for the festival. It's, I believe it's Bardstown Bourbon Company this year has that barrel pick.
Correct.
And that then is included in your ticket packages. So kind of go through the top two ticket packages, but go through those and explain to people that the top ticket package is not equal to the top ticket package last year, because that's the one thing that I've been getting, and people trying to tell me that, holy crap, it's so expensive. Last year it was, this price and now it's double. And I'm just like, no.
Nobody's telling you that.
No, I've had 4 people tell me that, they went right online and they're like, oh, the ticket packages are double this year for the VIP. And I'm just like, no, it's not.
No. So that's fair. So let's go back to, again, 2021, the first year coming off the pandemic. VIP, anybody who's listening, VIP was in the 3rd floor of the old 200-year-old building. And you had one old elevator that was slow. You had an old restroom with one toilet that was slow, and air conditioning that were window air conditioners and it couldn't keep up with the bodies. And it just was not the VIP experience. So last year we built a 40 by 120 foot tent with air conditioning and windows. So you could actually stand in there and look out on the lawn. And we had multiple bars, and we checked a few of the boxes, made it easier to get in and out, but there were still too many people in there. And people want 2 things loud and clear. They want early access. They want to be able to get into the Bourbon Festival before everyone else. And they wanted to have their own separate entrance. And they wanted to be more exclusive feeling when they're in that VIP space. So all 3 easy things to do. The first thing was, okay, we're opening at 11 now. So instead of noon to 6, and noon to 4 Sunday, for VIPs, it's now 11 to 6, 11 to 6, and 11 to 4 on Sunday. So they get their separate entry opportunity. They get an hour early entry. And then when they're in the tent, you're going to see even fewer of people like yourselves, like a VIP. So I've always maintained that if everyone is a VIP, then no one is a VIP. So I take the total number of tickets that we're going to sell to reach our optimum capacity. And that is very strategic. If I showed you the spreadsheet that showed the square footage and how many people and the experiences and square footage for each person, and it would blow your mind. But we come up with a number of people that we can come in and have a really cool experience. And then 8% of those is the number I've said. That's how many VIP packages. So this year we've got 550 VIP packages. That's it. 50 of the top ones. And again, everybody gets early entry in the VIP, the 3 levels. So the Decanter Club is brand new this year. You get an actual crystal decanter from Glencairn. You'll get the cut glass, the rocks glass this year instead of 2 years ago we did a Glencairn. Last year we did the mixer cut glass, and this year it's going to be the cut rocks glass tumbler. And you get the Bardstown Bourbon Company bottle signed, and you get a whole bunch of other little cool stuff. But the great tent, which is the big tent on the lawn where we have the distillery showcase events. So Jim Beam and Bardstown Bourbon Company on Friday, Brown Foreman on Saturday, and Sunday is the Michter's Brunch. All 4 of those premium events are now included in that top tier of the Decanter Club. So it's one-stop shop. You basically get access to everything, including the opening night bourbon in the air that you mentioned at the beginning. So you get all of the really cool premium items, but you also get your early admission, and you get included in all those premium. And there's only 50 of them. So when you see someone walking around with a Decanter Club credential, you're one of 50 people at this festival that have that access. And then the step below that had always been our top level, which is the flask force. That basically you get the Bardstown Bourbon Company bottle. It's their first single barrel that they've done. They've been working and doing custom distilling, but this year they're on, kind of releasing their very first original single barrels out into the market. And we've got one of those. So you'll get that. And then you get your Jacob Brumwell flask, and you get the t-shirt, and you get all the little fun cut glass stuff, but you don't get access to the 4 big events, but you still get the hour early admission and those kind of things. So, and again, fewer. So last year there were 220 flask force. There's only 100 this year. So the top 2 tiers are very exclusive, which is what everyone said they wanted. And then we're selling the basic 3-day VIP, which is anything but basic, but it just doesn't come with some of the little premium items, the flask and the decanter. But and we're always selling 300.
They all come with bourbon in the air too, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
The opening night preview, and it's a 3-hour event this year. It was supposed to have been 3-hour last year. I don't know why we kicked everybody out after 2 hours, but the whole time I'm standing there, I'm like, this is supposed to be a 3-hour event. Why is it not a 3-hour event tonight? So we've kind of double checked, and it's going to be back to being the 3-hour, probably either 5 to 8 or 5:30 to 8:30. I mean, because again, with us closing at 6 and 4, we're no longer an evening festival. So all of the things, the lights and all the things you put on for an evening festival, we don't have. We don't need them. We don't have them. So we can't go too late on opening night, because then you got people out there stumbling around in the dark. So we're still going to be probably like 5 to 8 or 5:30 to 8:30 when we still have some light in the sky and get people safely through and out. But that's really the difference. I mean, we're selling, I think, 220 fewer VIP packages available this year. So when you're in VIP, it's going to be the same setup, the same tent, but there's going to be 200 and some fewer people that'll have access to that. And we've got some other little surprises in store. We're upping our bartending game. So when you walk in the door to VIP, you're handed, in that first hour, you're handed a cocktail, a welcome cocktail right off the bat. And we're adding a couple of other bars, a little bit more premium kind of a feel. The catering is going to be stepped up a little bit. So all in all, it'll be a definite improvement over last year, which I believe was an improvement over the year before. So we just keep kind of incrementally, stepping it up and giving people more than what they're expecting.
And that tent and experience is like going to Barrett Jackson, by the way. If you've ever been to the Barrett Jackson car auction, that's what that is. It's not a tent with just whatever. It's legit.
Well, just wait. I mean, this year we're tightening it up. It was good last year, not good enough, but it was good. It was acceptable. This year we're buttoning it up a little bit better. We're going to have just kind of overall better experience. And I hope we never stop with those enhancements. I mean, we're not going to just continually year after year after year keep, bumping prices. If there's anybody listening that has that, I'm not promising, but we went from a free event to where we are now. We had to kind of do it over a couple of years, but we also had to continually show increased value year after year after year. We couldn't just come from a free festival for 30 years and drop $175 3-day ticket on people. So we had to kind of ease people into it. But as long as we keep offering value and experience that you can't get anywhere else, I feel like we can justify the price points.
Also, one of the aspects of it is why you close the festival at 6:00, where it's no longer an evening. You send people out into Bardstown so they can experience it. But also then the distilleries have their own events that are planned. And now last year, I felt that they kind of knew what was happening. You kind of were talking to them, but they didn't really get the feel for what it. And I really feel that this year they're going to have their shit together. As far as what that extra experience. I mean, I just the distilleries that were in from out of town that were staying at the Holiday Inn that first Friday night was one of the biggest parties. It had like 6 distilleries down in the lobby, and everybody who was staying, they just were partying. On Saturday, that's all everybody talked about.
Right. Well, and again, the whole concept of this festival, the new version, is not to keep everybody here and not share them with the community. The community has invested so much over 30 years that, we bring people in, we give them that unique experience, the festival experience, and then we breathe them back out into the community. So the restaurants and the bars benefit, the distilleries who have all put multi-million dollars into their visitor experience, they need to be able to show their venue. And the daytime, the tours are filled up a year in advance. Try to get a tour if you don't already have one booked, Bourbon Festival weekend. It's not easy to do, if possible, So now you've got your daytime tours, these especially the Bardstown, Nelson County area distilleries, excuse me, they have the ability to do a new event in addition to what they've done all day, that they can now introduce people and get them to come out and visit their campuses and give them that experience. So, and most importantly, it's not us producing it. We had done some events over the years. Very few of them were profitable. And unfortunately, breaking even isn't the long-term sustainable model that we have to have. So we would put on a good show in the evening, and we'd spend a lot of money on catering and tents and bands and bartenders. And then at the end of the day, while we sold out, the expenses in some ways exceeded the revenue, and we lost money on some of those really nice events. So by doing this, we put the onus out on the distilleries. Who knows better what their customer base wants? Who knows better how to utilize their campus than the distilleries? And, quite frankly, it gets the liability off of us, where we can give these people a wonderful experience and then get them out. They can go back to the hotels, change clothes, and go out in the town and really experience Bardstown and the surrounding area. And we have a number of Louisville-based distilleries, and that's another thing we're trying to do is get the Rabbit Hole and Angel's Envy and Michter's and the Old Forester, the Kentucky Peerless. The list goes on and on. The Kentucky-based or Louisville-based distilleries to do some evening events too. Old Carter is looking at doing a small, a reception for 20 people.
Ooh.
I'd really like to see if we can get that.
I'd like
really
to see if I can get to that.
Well, and we partner with the Downtown Marriott in Louisville, and we're running shuttles from that hotel to the Bourbon Festival back throughout the whole weekend. So if you stay in downtown Louisville and you want that Louisville experience, you can still get on the shuttle, get to the Bourbon Festival in Bardstown, safely get back into downtown Louisville, and then you've got your evening, area events that we're hoping to get developed this year. And if not this year, again, it's a slow transition that these distilleries are big battleships to try to get to move, right?
Well,
I mean, they just don't nimbly change directions like we want them to. So we work with them, and we kind of start telling people how we can get our bourbon enthusiasts from the Bourbon Festival to their distilleries and for their evening events. I just think it'll work.
Well, you got the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. It changed. There used to be a bourbon trail that everybody went on, but it wasn't organized and it wasn't a thing. And when they put the Kentucky Bourbon Trail in there, everybody to be on it, that was a pay-to-play thing. You got on the trail, they do all the advertising, and it really started bringing a huge amount of people down. But it also led to distilleries that used to give tours for free. Now you charge a certain amount for them. And then people initially were like, oh, they're charging, whatever. But it's the same thing. The Kentucky Bourbon Festival has followed that model. But if you look at the distillery experiences compared to just 10 years ago, there was a couple doing, Beam had a nice experience but it's nothing like what it is now. It allows them to do what they're doing. And the festival itself, I will give you credit for this. I think this is the time of the year now that you're the showcase to what they've all been doing. So when people come down, they get a taste of it, and then they can come down again and they'll know where they want to go based off the whiskey they taste. So you're just kind of like this is the kickoff of the opening event to get everybody down there and sample. It's like you're the sampler, but you're still at the same level they are as far as presentation. You allow them to present what they're already presenting at their distilleries, in this
Right.
little short form all together and allow people to get excited and make their decisions, because
Well,
it's hard to go to every distillery.
right. Well, and it's National Bourbon Heritage Month, September. It's a big month for all the distilleries. And I mentioned that 75% of the people that attended came from the 49 states outside of Kentucky. And I'm a realist. I would love to think that these people are coming in just for the Bourbon Festival, but the reality is they're doing distillery tours all week and they're ending their vacation with us, or they're coming to us to start and kicking off. I can't count how many people that were like, we're just getting going with the Bourbon Festival. We got 4 more days next week of doing distillery tours. So I love being in that kind of, we're the reason they choose this time to maybe do these things. But we're not necessarily attracting just one-offs are coming in for 3 days and going home. Some are, but some people are also coming in and getting out. And that's the reason why we did the unlimited re-entries. A lot of times you go to a festival or an event, you go in and you don't leave. If you leave, you're done. You can't come back in. I mean, Churchill Downs, you leave on Derby Day for whatever reason, you're not getting back in to watch the Derby. Here, we want people to come in the morning, 11 o'clock VIPs. They spend a couple hours. They go off and do that distillery tour, or they go off into the downtown and have lunch. If they don't find anything that they would like with our food truck, Bourbon Capital Bites, we're calling it. But so, I mean, that's the whole idea, is we want people to come in and out and know that they can go off and explore the community. That's really, other than the hotel, the heads and beds, that's really one of the other values that we bring as an economic driver for Bardstown. The business side of what we're doing is the cash registers ring, during the Bourbon Festival weekend. So,
And if somebody hasn't been to the festival, I mean, when you get there in Bardstown, I mean, you're 2.5 blocks maybe from downtown. You're 3 to 5 minutes from Heaven Hill. You're 5 minutes from Lux Row. You're 7 minutes from Bardstown. You're so close to so many things. Four Roses is not far from there.
10 to 15 minutes from Four Roses, and then Beam out in Claremont. You get down to Maker's Mark. You got Log Still, Dan Crossing, Preservation. Barton unfortunately doesn't do the tours anymore, but no,
still cool to see.
You mean
got that
Sazerac
cluster.
doesn't do the tours because they do the tours at Buffalo Trace?
Oh, stop! You know it.
Anyways,
all right. I'll have my no comment sign. No, but I mean, honestly, and they know this. I mean, my favorite tour that I went on early on was that Barton. You see the old gritty distillery, and I love, Bardstown Bourbon Company, the glass, the stainless steel, the modern view. Buffalo Trace obviously is cool with all the history, but it just, going to Barton, it was just cool. And you expected to see a chicken or something run across in front of you. It just had that gritty
It's the
feel.
dusty tour. It's the dusty tour.
Yeah, I did like it till they made me drink very old Bartons, and then that was it.
But didn't they follow it up with the cream, because their cream is amazing?
That one was like, but no, it was amazing. I actually was able to get Master Distiller to sign my 1792 full proof, and it was a good tour.
Danny Kahn.
It was what you call the down and dirty distillery tour. Similar to the tour this past weekend we got to do at Michter's at the Shively plant. We got to go in there and see that, and that's the same thing. That's a working distillery. It's not open for the tours and everything, and you really get that industrial feel of what those people are doing, and it's really kind of cool. They had that in the Barton's tour. So I agree.
And I would be remiss, because again, we're the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. We're not the Bardstown Bourbon Festival. Sometimes people refer to us as. So as important it is for those distilleries, the 9 that are right there in Nelson County surrounding the area, we've got all the other distillery from Western Kentucky to Eastern Kentucky, Northern. I mean, New Riff has stepped up recently up in Covington, and they came in last year as a craft distillery, and they immediately called me and bumped up to the onto the main lawn, because they see what's going on there. And we did a barrel pick with them last year, and Tiny, you were on that. I mean, Creola, who led our barrel pick, I fell in love with her. Like, she is awesome. And she ended up being one of our speakers, one of the presenters in the premium. And that's just how that happens. I'm like, this woman is not only knowledgeable, she's super friendly and bubbly in this personality. I want her at the festival, not just in the distillery. And, and then what happened after that, and this is important for you guys, if there's, media, traditional media, the travel writers, the bloggers, the podcasters, the influencers, Covington, Northern Kentucky tourism fell in love with what we're doing and the people that we're bringing into Kentucky and bringing through their community, their region. Obviously, Ohio being the number 2. You can't get down here, without going through Covington. And so they're our major sponsor now. They're the single largest sponsor we have with the festival, and they're bringing in this whole, helping me basically deliver a media hospitality that's going to be a miniature version of the Publix VIP, the penthouse that you both had seen last year. We're going to be offering that for our media people. So a dedicated bar with the Beeline, restaurant, influenced food on the catering, the bar, New Riff, and the distilleries that are in that area. You're going to have a cool lounge area. It's going to be air conditioned. You're going to have working space. So that media row that we've been kind of struggling to figure out how to put together, we're going to have space inside this hospitality tent. So you can bring a master distiller in and do the interview, and you're going to be in a climate controlled setting that is going to be, your area. So it's coming together. It's taken us a few years, but we're fine. We're getting our legs under us, and we're finding out what's important. The cigar lounge. Go ahead.
Cigar lounge.
Well,
Ooh.
I'm not a cigar smoker. I'm the first one to admit that. I've got bronchitis and all these other things that are just kind of chronic. So I'm not a big fan of smoke of any kind, but we know that, 3 things go together in Kentucky: thoroughbred racing, bourbon, and cigars. And so we're developing a new cigar lounge for the cigar smokers. Angel's Envy just told us yesterday that they were going to be coming in and being our official bourbon partner, our distillery partner of the cigar lounge. And if you were there the last couple of years, you could buy cigars and you could find kind of an empty tent to sit around and smoke a cigar, but there was no real vibe. So we're dusting off what we did 2 years ago with Angel's Envy and kind of blowing it up a little bit more to be a legitimate area for those folks that want to enjoy their cigar with their bourbon. And we've got some really cool things in store with just that part. So again, those are the little incremental improvements that we're being able to make that hopefully will continue to not only enhance people's experience, but also they will feel that there's a value, that they're getting something. I think it comes out to at $175 for just a regular 3-day admission. The weekend pass, I think it comes out to about $58 a day. So do the math, $58 a day, you're coming in having exposure to 55 distilleries. And if every distillery there just offered 2 samples, 2 different products, that's 110 different unique pours. And we know that the big guys are doing 4 and 6 different brands that they're sampling and now able to sell. So man, after I pay $80 to go to a 4-hour brew festival where the people didn't know anything about the beer, to where you're now looking at a 3-day bourbon festival where you're actually maybe walking up and talking to the master distiller. I think that's a pretty crazy environment that we've been able to collectively create.
I mean, you're gonna the bourbon in the air. That's something that you got to go to, but that you really need to go to it, because that's where you're going to get most of the owners and the master distillers. But then throughout the whole weekend, they show up at their booths. I mean, last year, Dan McKee was at his booth. He was there all 4 days. I mean, and it was just there's aspects of it. But then the last point we should make is talk about how safe this bourbon festival. I mean, everybody would think that, it's a bourbon festival, unlimited pours, and people would be getting shit-faced all over the place. But the last 2 years, you have completely proved that wrong, that these people know how to behave and act. And, you've got the stats on that.
Jeffrey, thank you. I think you're the only one we actually had to carry off the property. So no. And thank you. I mean, in all seriousness, like you said, to do a 3-day whiskey festival with sampling included in the price of admission. We've gone 2 years in a row, and I'm knocking on wood right here, man. 2 years with no arrests, no public drunken disorder, anything like that. I mean, I would run a 4-hour brew festival, and inevitably there's somebody that we had to like deal with, you know. So no, I mean, I have a group of friends that come in Wisconsin, and they take turns. Like, today's the day I'm going to be the good guy and be, you know, responsible DD to get us back to the hotel or the Airbnb. And they kind of take turns, and they watch out for each other, and they know it's about the experience. It's the difference between doing a shot of Jim Beam after you win a softball game and enjoying that same Jim Beam, but, you know, in a Glencairn. I mean, there is a difference. And so, I mean, they police themselves. We are very responsible. I can't stress that enough. You can't buy a ticket unless you indicate that you're 21. You don't get into the festival without an ID check. We have 55 distilleries and 3 or 4 other bars within, and they're all told, you know, the responsible service. You know, they're all, you know, tips, you know, the certified bartenders, they know to ask for IDs. They'll cut someone off if they feel like they've had too much. And, you know, and that means a lot to me. And that, you know, closing at 6 o'clock, it's not just sweeping the problem off of our property onto someone else's. You know, it really is. It's making sure people are getting in and getting their experience, and then they can go and rest up and recharge and you know, go out at night and hopefully have a good time all over again. But
I mean, last year I didn't see one person. I saw a couple people that had a lot, that their friends were helping them and all that, but I didn't see one person acting like an idiot even after you left the festival. We were at Scout and Scholar that night. It's the same thing. There's a band, people are playing, but there was a family atmosphere or responsible drinkers. I mean, that's just kind of what it was coming down to. Plus, what kind of fun is if you get drunk on Friday night and you wake up with a hangover, and then you've got tickets to Saturday and Sunday and you can't do that? You know, you gotta, it just seems like the people who are drinking whiskey the way you set your festival up are very responsible. And I would say that, you know, you know, me and you grew up with Summerfest. And the early years when my mom and dad were taking me to the Willie Nelson festivals at Summerfest, or I would, you know, when I was like a 10, 12-year-old kid, when it was just starting in the 70s, I saw a lot of beer fights. I mean, they were drinking that beer. I mean, remember County Stadium used to have to close because they'd have the dollar beer nights, and everybody just start beating the crap out of each other in the stands,
and slinging their beers out onto the field.
Yeah, but now this festival is very impressive. I mean, I don't feel Bardstown is a small community. That's one thing, but you just feel safe that when you go out into the thing, if you knock on someone's door at 11 o'clock at night and they don't, you know, they're not worried about killing you. So if it's the wrong house.
And you're right. And, you know, I mean, the opportunities for problems are always there. I mean, it's a whiskey event, okay, at the end of the day. But my first meeting with, and I don't think the mayor and the police chief would mind me sharing this story, but, you know, the very first time I met them, you know, the festival was open until 11 o'clock. And that was when we had the big spirit garden and the beer garden and the big stage. And, you know, and they wanted us to stay open until midnight, because at least then all the drunks were kind of still contained there in one area. Because what was happening is they would leave at 11 and go up Flagey, where all the residents are, and, you know, loud, you know, yelling and cursing and public urination. I mean, all the things that go with that kind of an environment. And they'd get in fights, and they'd go and push into those bars on the main strip, and the bars weren't prepared to handle that kind of a pressure at 11 o'clock at night. So they wanted us to stay open until midnight so people would just go home. And I said, not only are we not going to stay open later, I'm going to cut it back to 10 o'clock. And then ultimately we did that. And then this last year we went to 6 o'clock. And you know what? Not one complaint from any of the neighbors. The neighboring church, who the priest's residence is right there next to the festival, they all love it. I mean, they love the way we manage the crowds, and, you know, and I think that the attendees appreciate that too. They can come in and not have to worry about the person next to them, you know, falling over drunk on them. And, you know, so again, knock on wood, we're going to hopefully continue.
the 11 to 6, I mean, is fantastic. Now, us coming in as media, we come in, we set up, we get ready to, we're doing that. But at the same time, 7 hours of being able to drink whiskey, and then for 3 straight days, that's 21 hours. You've got it. You don't need more than that. Nobody needs more than a full 20, almost 24 hours of solid drinking over a weekend. 21 hours is enough. And then if you want to go out, I mean, most of the time, I think you're satisfied when you leave. So you don't have to be drinking. You might have one more beer or whatever, but it allows everybody to go out and meet each other too. So,
and I mean, I don't want to say that we're going to become a victim of our success, but in some ways, in that regard specifically, we might just need to address that going forward. So, having the sampling included, and I'm always very careful to say, sampling is included in the festival admission. It's not unlimited sampling. It's not drink all you can drink. And I'm very careful about that, even though ultimately, if you came in, you could do just that. But we're trying to foster this, the environment that it is something you should come in and enjoy and enjoy with your friends. I mean, it's a very social type of an experience too, and it should be fun. But we're probably going to end up having to cross that bridge where how do we manage the sampling? We already encourage the distilleries, half-ounce pours in the little wee Glencairns, and you start looking at that. But we haven't had to do that yet because I think, the people are kind of policing themselves. But again, I mean, as the festival, we want to make sure that we maintain that too. I mean, we can't just say, whew, we got through another year without problems. I mean, at some point you've got to be upfront and manage it. So you help kind of mitigate those things. But those are all things that we're looking at and listening, to the distilleries, and, the police chief and the deputy chief are there at the festival the entire weekend. So their eyes and ears, and they overhear what people are saying, good and bad. So, I mean, I take a lot of feedback from the law enforcement, that's there, but, they've gone from 20 officers down to 4 or 6, because of the early hours and because of the fact the crowd being such a well-behaved, crowd. So, I mean, I take a lot of pride, and I thank everyone if, people that are watching, and whether it's a watching live or, watching in delay, thank you for coming into Bardstown and being good neighbors and having a good time with us.
CT, you have any more questions?
I really don't. It's just such a great experience. I tell people all the time to if you're going to do one event to me really throughout the year, this is the one you want to go to. This is the one you want to be involved with. It's something that you'll remember, and you'll probably want to do it every year after then, because I've been looking forward to it since we ended it last year. So
me too. I joke with Tiny, he had been to, the festival before me. So here I am planning a festival that I'd never attended, but it was easier because I knew what we had to be. I didn't necessarily have to worry about what we were and how we're going to, we pressure tested everything. And I think the first time that I came on, we talked about that. Every single component of this festival, the old festival, had to be tested against, is it about whiskey and the people who make it? Is it going to put whiskey enthusiasts in front of the distilleries? If it didn't, as nice as that little event might have been, it went away to make way for things a little bit more, serious. So I can't wait for you guys to come see what we're building for everyone this year. It'll be a lot of fun.
And we can't wait to get there. But you just I think what you did, it's what you were hired to do. All I can say is I'll leave you with this. It's kind of like, I remember looking at the fest after doing the 2019 and looking the first year when you got hired and reading that you came from your background at the Wisconsin State Fair. And then, you had a Facebook page that I could contact you on. I mean, it made me so excited because I remember what happened to that fair. And I remember how this was. And I know what, even to today, that model you were setting up for the Wisconsin State Fair, just kept going every year. Now almost everything's permanent. You know what I mean? Now this can't be permanent stuff, but last year compared to the year before, there were the distilleries had more permanent structures, and their setups were, and the big distilleries did do blow up stuff at the old festival, and they did a nice little bar area, but it was nothing like last year. And then you had even the smaller distilleries, and just, you add in Bardstown Bourbon Company, and they do so much as far as all the distilleries that can be there, because they're bottling or they're distilling for these distilleries. And it's just made, without them, there wouldn't be 55 distilleries there, because there couldn't be, because there wouldn't be that many in the state. But overall, It's just been such a phenomenal evolution, and every year it gets better. And that's what I love about you, is that the one year you look at what maybe might have been a weakness, and then the next year you make it the strength of the festival. And when you give you a couple more years, there will be no more weaknesses. So, and that's what everybody,
You're very kind, and as president of my fan club, I expect you to say those things. I mean, you are very kind, and you do know some of the things, that have gone in, but there's always going to be some place to improve. And when we do our recap, just our internal team, we don't do what we did well and what we didn't do well, or what we failed at. It was, what do we do well? What do we need to do better with? And the food was that standout thing. I mean, you just can't, to no fault of our own, best efforts, we just didn't have the food truck operation that we needed there to take care of our customers, our guests. And so now this year we will. And, the Catholic Church is renting us that whole parking place. I guarantee you 2 years ago, they wouldn't have done that unless we'd proven to them that we were going to be a responsible partner and neighbor to them. And, so, I mean, that's all part of what we're doing, but we're always going to improve. I'm not a big fan, though, of if it ain't broken, don't fix it. I don't necessarily subscribe to that, but I just say, don't fix something until it's broken. And I've seen in my life, and Churchill Downs, I love them, but a lot of times Churchill Downs is guilty of fixing things until they break, instead of just continuing to make things better. They feel like they have to do something. And it's kind of like if you watch the Saturday morning cartoons, and the big abominable snowman had Bugs Bunny, I will love him and pet him and squeeze him and call him George. And you're killing Bugs Bunny, and so I don't like doing that. I like to get it to a point where everybody's really happy with something, and kind of, maybe the tweaks we're making people won't notice, but hopefully when it's overall, I hope they leave with an experience that they know they can't get anywhere else in the world. So
I think that's a new category every year. What's new for the festival this year? Every year you got something, you can put something new. I mean, it's not like that's even out of range. I mean, there's so much that you can do. And you guys probably come up with ideas all the time that you'd love to do, but it just doesn't, you can't get it done, but you're going to keep trying. And that's something that you always want the experience, to go good. Right. And you're right there, hands on to make sure it runs as smooth as possible.
Well, in a lot of ways, I'm kind of the orchestra conductor, right? I mean, the distilleries are our players, our orchestra. And the cool thing that I'm seeing now, and Stacy's bringing it out in a bunch of the distilleries, the ones that were with us early, and I call them investors. We had multiple year agreements, because I can't keep going out and reselling it every year after year. I need to know when I start next year where we are, how many distilleries are going to be here. And I'm very proud to say we've not had any distilleries pull out. And in fact, we keep adding to it. So that's something that we're doing something right, but the distilleries themselves are seeing the opportunity. So we created this canvas where they came in, but now they're starting to see a couple of distilleries were upset, but not at us. They were upset at themselves because they didn't, really capitalize on the opportunity that was in front of them. So they're starting to get, so a lot of the changes that we're seeing with the distilleries are actually them being more creative with their own teams to deliver a better experience just in their little footprint. And as everyone's doing that, the overall experience improves. And all we're doing is bringing the people in, and so it really is that simple in some ways.
Whiskey made a comment. If you build it, they will come. It's like the field of dreams of bourbon. That's what he looks at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival.
Yeah.
He wanted to be with us, but it didn't go his way today for his medical procedure. Some things happened, so he wasn't able to join us tonight, but he wanted me to say hi. He was hoping to. And then Nash was on until about half hour before because his paperwork and what he has to do to go to work tomorrow, he needed to finish it tonight. So
no,
but your diehard fans are right here. CT, you notice CT's he's been everywhere with me, man.
I'd just like to be the laundry or the janitor of the fan club. I'll be the janitor.
No. We all play every role. It's a small but mighty little team, and I've built a team that all kind of shares what the vision has to be. It's not Randy's vision, it's the vision that the festival has to be, and we're just the ones that are entrusted with carrying it out and making it happen. So if you've seen the evolution of our team and the players that are on it, and the PR people and the marketing people and the distillery people, it really is coming together. So it's the same thing that I had happen in Wisconsin at the state fair. We turned that thing around, but it wasn't Randy turning it around. It was Randy surrounding himself with people that were like-minded, that saw the vision, and we got it done. And that's just kind of what we're doing here. It's just a smaller venue.
Last thing, it had to be more you than anything else initially because of COVID. Honestly, it strapped because you put on this amazing festivals, and the distillery need distillery people to man their booths, not just some random distributor. It was almost impossible for the distilleries to man the booths. Some of the distilleries couldn't do it. And the same thing with the food trucks. Your food trucks it wasn't short. Last year, I wouldn't say it was short at all. You had good food truck experience. There was some good stuff there. But the year before, it was 100% that they couldn't man the trucks. Nobody would work. Nobody was doing anything. I think this year we've kind of come out of it enough where there's some people power behind this to do it. And then I like to look at us that we're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys are a part of your team in a way that like a volunteer fire department. That's us. So we like to put that out, help you every once in a while. I can come onto the Kentucky Bourbon Festival page and put out a couple fires.
Yeah, and Randy, we appreciate you letting us be a part of everything that we do with it, because it is a great event, but it's great people, probably more so than anything, and that's what makes it great. So,
well, and thank you, CT. And off air we have a lot of fun, and we give each other a hard time. Mostly giving Jeffrey a hard time, but we all have fun doing it, because at the end of the day, what we all do is fun. If you can't have fun doing what you guys are doing, you're in the wrong business. If we can't have fun doing what we're doing, we're in the wrong business. And trust me, I've worked with people over the last couple of years that didn't have fun. Didn't have fun, and it showed. And now we've got a fun group of people involved. So I guess I'd like just in closing here, and thank you for everything you do. One of the main reasons we came on was to talk about tickets going on sale. I would be remiss if I didn't at least put a shameless plug in. May 11th, the tickets go on sale. May 10th is for Bourbon Insiders. So if anybody isn't already signed up through our website for being a Bourbon Insider, not only do you get first access to tickets, but you also get a $25 discount on the 3-day general admission, what we call the Bourbon Taster package. So it's $150 if you get it on the 10th, and we're ready for you. And I would love nothing more than to be able to sell this festival out again, but sell it out before we even go on sale to the public. So we've got 26,000 people that are signed up as Bourbon Insiders on our website. 2 years ago, we had just around 4,000. So in the last 2 years, we've gone from 4,000 to 26,000. So if 10% of the people that are on our database buy tickets on May 10th when they can, we may not be having much left over on the 11th. And I would love that. So
Yeah, to sell out early takes a little bit of pressure off of you. There's no doubt about it. So I agree. I'll keep pushing it through
Thank
the podcast, and then also throughout the week we'll do some, promotional. I loved your reel you guys did. I saw it just before. It just posted right before, and it's fantastic. I didn't know you were doing reels, but that was a pretty good Facebook reel.
Well, and we're, doing the countdown to tickets being on sale, and what you're seeing is the kind of the magic of our new director of marketing, and she's dialed in on that stuff, and right down to the music bed. The music bed has its own algorithms based in it. So if we're using music that's trending at the same time that we're doing this right, and you guys probably know this, I didn't, but the music itself helps drive viewership and engagements, because it's a couple days ago, I think I was our 12-day countdown. It had the song from Top Gun Maverick, the scene when they're out on the beach playing football, and that music, that was our music track. I'm like, that sounds really familiar, but it's because, it's trending, so that's all her. And, we sell basically 100% of our tickets based on, social media and, this kind of stuff, driving people to the website. So the traditional way of selling tickets, where you used to go to the Piggly Wiggly in Milwaukee to buy your state fair tickets and stuff, and Summerfest tickets, that's not how it's done anymore. So we need what you're offering, and thank you again for providing us this forum to talk it up.
All right, everybody. That was and is the president of Kentucky Bourbon Festival, Randy Prasse. He basically, I can't say enough. We thank you for everything you do. Thank you for coming on tonight, giving us your time. It's just, it's been an amazing 4-year ride. And I just look at you as a personal friend. And, we talk, a couple times a week or whatever, maybe when it gets closer, I text you and then just wait for like the next week for you to respond. But, this is the time where you can respond, and we've seen each other quite a bit this past off season, and I'm hoping to come down in June and see you, because we're going to be in the Bardstown area. But thank you so much.
Well, I can't win here, Jeffrey. I reply immediately, and you don't like that reply, and you don't like when I wait a week. So you don't like my
wait.
no.
Okay, give me like 5 minutes and give me a reply that's just not a
no.
Just mess. Yeah, exactly. That was just great. Hey, you gonna be doing that today? Are we're gonna see each other this weekend? No. But I know you. I mean, I know you, and it's like I understand. It's just it's a lot of fun, and so when we hang out and everything and do things, I enjoy our time, and look forward to it. So everybody's
important to us, but you guys were there day one, and and I tell people the whole media row, the media program was really started, Jeffrey, you and me talking like, what do you need available to you to be able to do what you're doing at the festival? I mean, that, in all honesty, that's how media row and this whole hospitality piece that you're going to see this year started, based on what can I do to help the Scotchy Bourbon Boys come down and be effective and have a good experience and take home some really good material. And so thank you for being a part of that too.
Yeah, I really enjoyed, working with, in the first year, you gave us what we needed, and we were there, and we like to be there for the full 3 days, for the full festival, give everybody the experience, take home, and so we can promote throughout the whole year. So I'm going to be releasing some of the 2022 footage that I saved up over the summer as we get a little bit closer to the festival, stir up more excitement. And then, we'll go from there. But
cool. If anybody's looking for a little bit of a feel of what the festival really is about, you go to the KBF, Kentucky Bourbon Festival YouTube channel, and that's kind of a new area. The virtual from the 2020 pandemic year really is what drove us putting that content up, but it gave exposure of the festival to people that maybe wouldn't have heard or seen us before. And so we've kind of cracked open that, but now we put the Bourbon 30 show that Steve Coombs and I have developed. We put that on there so people can kind of get at least a little bit of a vibe of what we're trying to create if you haven't seen it. But do definitely check out our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter accounts Facebook and Instagram, we're very active on for sure. So if you're out there and you haven't quite figured out what we're all trying to do, just kind of monitor our social media. Our website's getting retooled. So we're trying to bring the story along and tell it really loudly for the world to hear. So, and thank you for once again for helping us with that.
Right. And then Bruce Russell, I remember seeing that interview that first year. Everybody should go back and watch that. And then if you get a chance to meet him at Kentucky Bourbon Festival this year, it's like two completely different people. You know what I mean? He's really gone. And so that's one of the cool things, that you get to see the people in their careers when they're first starting out. I mean, I believe it wasn't, I think it wasn't Jimmy, but it was
Eddie and Bruce.
Right. Eddie and Bruce
were with Fred and Freddie in the Beam Man Cave out in the garage.
Right. And it seemed like a little bit, what would you say? Bruce was overwhelmed on that one. He did talk, but now to see him, I've seen him in a couple things, and then also around, I've seen him talking, and he does a lot of barrel picks up here in Ohio, and he's just a totally different person. So it's really kind of cool.
But you see everybody evolving. I mean, you look at Fred and Freddie and look at Freddie's role now since he got promoted to master distiller, and you look at Freddie from 3-4 years ago. Freddie was still very confident and was very, capable of everything, but he's grown into that new role. And you go distillery by distillery, you see some of the young master distillers, coming up through, Caleb and, Peerless. You actually get to see the transformation of someone's, young people's, these careers as people kind of take on. So it is very cool to see that.
It's just that part of this is like a family. The friendships that you've made since you've started, it's unlike any other industry. It's hard to find somebody in the industry that's not sincere and hardworking. It's hard. You have to look. Right. I mean, they exist. I mean, we all know that, but at the same time, the majority of the people that are doing this are just pretty amazing, and you just feel like you make friends, and you just want to keep coming down for more friendship, and that's just right. How
Well, I mean, not to get off into the whole tangent about the Heaven Hill fire, but that was really one of the more obvious demonstrations of the collaboration in the industry, where literally GM would watch Ford plant burn, Coke would watch the Pepsi plant burn, but no, not in this world. They help each other out. So the underlying spirit of everything we're doing with this bourbon festival is the collaboration from the industry. So when we're talking that virtual event in 2020, you've got two competing distilleries. You've got Danny Kahn sitting on the couch with Connor O'Driscoll, two competing distilleries, but they're talking about fermentation, or and it's really showcasing the collaboration. So that again, you don't see that in any other industry. I don't care what industry, you don't see it, and we're really something magical in that regard. So it's kind of cool to be able to be the showcase for that.
They know the one thing about their industry that's not usually true in any other industry, that no matter how much they make, they can't make enough.
Yeah.
So if you can't make enough, you're really not competing. You're just competing against yourself to make something good enough that people want to drink.
Well, and if you talk to any distillery that started their brand within the last 10 years, let's say, and they've now experienced, a level of success, every single one of them will credit, Fred and Freddie or Jimmy and Eddie. I mean, the people that could be keeping their secrets to not allow a competitor into the market, they're just the opposite. They're giving them their knowledge. They're helping them hopefully avoid pitfalls that cause them pain when they're coming up through, or actually lending equipment. If something breaks down, one of the competing distilleries is the one that's sending the part over to get their production line going. I mean, it's amazing to see. And if they're not admitting that, they're either lying or they did it the hard way because they didn't take advantage of that collaborative spirit that this industry has. So with that, I would like to just make sure everybody feels welcome, and I invite you to come to this festival and maybe experience not only a small town, Bardstown, Kentucky. It's the bourbon capital of the world, and it's called that for a reason. And I feel like the festival is a major part of kind of fulfilling that. Branding is not something you put on a water tower. Branding is really living and something unique, and I feel like we're helping contribute to that, and we're just proud to show it off.
Right. September 14th through 17th. Tickets on sale May 11th, but the pre-sale for if you join the club,
Bourbon Insider.
the Bourbon
Bourbon
Insider.
Insider.
There you go.
Why are you doing that? I should be the one saying that.
Well, you did it already. I'm just saying it one more time. Bourbon Insider, you basically the tickets. What time on the 10th? Is it 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, or same?
Noon Eastern on the 10th and
Perfect.
noon Eastern on the 11th. We wanted to make sure people got in and kind of got their work. We didn't,
Right. So they're on lunch.
Everybody-
At least
everybody
on lunch.
shops.
Everybody has a shot.
yeah. Kate goes to work to shop. So we're trying to cater our ticket sales around those people that go to work to then go on the computer and shop.
Okay. All right, everybody. We're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. Thank you, CT, for joining us. Thank you, Randy. As always, I appreciate it. Remember, www.scotchybourbonboys.com for all your Scotchy Bourbon Boy Glencairns, t-shirts, and even Scotchy Bourbon balls. So remember, good bourbon and good whiskey equal good times, and make sure that you drink responsibly, but go out there and live dangerously. We've got little Steve-O to take us out.
Oh, show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. Show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. For if we don't find the next whiskey bar, I tell you we must die. I tell you we must die. I tell you we must die.
Hey, Scotchy Bourbon Boys, Tiny here to tell you about Log Still Distillery. Log Still Distillery is forging new roads for generations to come at their old Kentucky home by bringing bourbon back to Gethsemane. Guided by Wally Dant and cousins Lynn and Charles Dant, Log Still is firmly built on faith and family. They fill each bottle with respect while honoring the history of bourbon and their family itself, ever mindful that faith, family, community, and bourbon paved the way for future generations. They invite you to visit them in Gethsemane. Sure, you'll find a lot that's shiny and new, but what you'll feel is something deep and soulful. Visit them also on the web at www.logstilldistillery.com.
Hey, Scotchy Bourbon Boys fans, this is Alan Bishop, Indiana's alchemist of the Black Forest. So I'm tuning in here today to tell you all about the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute channel on YouTube. If you're at all interested in the art of distilling, whether it be home distilling or professional distilling, and the intense geekery that goes into that process, then check out the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute on YouTube. I promise you're going to learn something you didn't know before about the art.